All right, all you love making, baby shaking, crazy people out there. Welcome to Society Says, the podcast for you and by you and for the people of all kinds and all races. Anyways, that's my intro. I'm here with Staria, the founder of Society Says, and I am her best friend. But yeah, so today we're gonna do a podcast on everything that's crazy going on in the world today. As far as you know, we're gonna skip the virus because everyone knows about that, but the riots and the protests, and we're gonna give our thoughts about how, what, how and what is going on.
Yeah, definitely. I will say that this podcast was my idea for today, which is hard because for the past 2 weeks I've been feeling like I am worried I'm going to say the wrong thing, which most white people are feeling that way right now. But I figured it's better to speak up and do my part, and I really believe that it makes a difference. So I'm really going to do my best today, because I don't think that I don't think anybody can really say anything wrong if you're trying your best to be on the side of, making a difference and making sure that all these people, their names are heard. So do you want to dive into what's going on right now?
All right. First off, very, very, very first thing is that video is crazy. Like, who does that officer think he is to put his knee in anyone's neck? Like,
I know.
and to hear them say, "I can't breathe," and call out for their mom, and there's blood. Like, I just think like any basic human should know that that is not okay. Like, not at all, not close. It's just wrong.
It makes me think about his family because he has kids, right? And I just wonder how they're doing during this. If they're surprised and shocked that their dad, their husband, did this, or if it's something that like is just, I don't know. Because again, it is crazy that somebody just thinks that that's okay. I mean, he knows that like when someone says they can't breathe, like that means that their airway is being cut off. Like it's just amazing. The whole video, he just stayed there, and I don't know, maybe that's part of the reason why I feel so speechless, because it's just hard to believe that there's such evil in the world that people are capable of this.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at it. It's like from the minute, and that's why it's such a big deal. Really, it's the look on the officer's face. He had no remorse or anything. It was just like, all right, this is what I do on the daily. Just doing my regular job, doing what I do normally. No big deal. Hands in the pocket, just kind of chilling there. Like, it's like a normal thing for this guy to stick his knee in people's neck. Like, it's not his first time at all.
I know, it really makes me wonder how many times he's done this, or how many times he's gotten away with doing other things that are just completely unfair to whoever's on the other end of it.
Mm-hmm. As a young black male, I feel like many other young black male have been pretty dormant and haven't really been speaking out about how we feel in society, or young black females, or black females, black males. We haven't really been speaking out that much, but after seeing something like that and seeing the momentum that's built up from all the protests and the riots, like, it makes us feel like we have a support where we can now step out and say, hey, like, this is how we've been feeling our entire life, And it's moving on to the next topic, where we're talking about the riots and protests, is it's weird, but I finally feel like people are listening. And for me, growing up, here's a little story. Like, every time I go into a store, it doesn't matter, up to this age, up to now, like, every time I go into a store and I'm walking out, I feel like every eyes is watching me and feeling like like I've stolen something. And it doesn't matter how I dress, how I look, I always have that thought because that's just what it is. Like that's just how I was raised. Is everyone is watching everything you do because they think you're gonna steal or you're gonna commit a crime, and for the first time in forever, I've felt like people actually have my back. Where instead of looking at me as a prospect or a suspect, they're looking at me as a prospect, and like they are actually like looking at me to because they actually care and not because they think I'm gonna go in their store and steal something. There's this weird vibe that I get in the air of like if there's a connection where people are finally getting it that like not because I'm black that means I'm gonna go steal your stuff or cause trouble.
Yeah, I think so. When we got married, I thought only about how people would look at us being biracial. That's the only thing that like really crossed my mind was just how we together would be stared at. And I am realizing in the past couple weeks that there's so much more to that. That's really scary. Like, I don't know if it's called secondhand racism. I've heard that being thrown around, but well, like for example, when we were moving, we got pulled over. I got us both speeding tickets, and that was the first time that I was ever really scared because we were in separate cars, and the cop was at Angel's car for a lot longer than he was at mine, and I was just shaking in my car because I didn't know if I just got him into a bad situation. And a couple days ago, this past week, you got stopped. Well, not stopped. You were parked on the side of the road, and you like looked up and saw all these National Guardsmen surrounding you. And when I heard that story, like all I can picture is you getting out of your car with your hands above your head, and like it's just really terrifying. And I feel so helpless at this time because there's like nothing I can do except, you know, protest and sign petitions, send emails, do everything possible to try to make a change because I know like our kids, they're gonna have darker skin and they're going to have struggles that like I never have had in my whole life. And you know, I just want to be able to do everything I can to make this world a little bit safer for them and for everybody that's here right now. You know, we deserve this change. And it's interesting. I went to a protest yesterday. No, 2 days ago. I went to a protest, and it was an amazing experience. It was very peaceful. They had, before we started marching, they had speeches and different performances from Black artists, and it was just so amazing. But before all that started, I had this white man come up to me, and he was like, "When are white people going to start having rights?" And I just couldn't believe he was saying that. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Do you understand the whole point of this?" And he was like, aren't we all supposed to be equal? And I'm like, that's like what we're trying to work towards here. And it's just like so crazy to have a conversation with somebody that their mindset is just completely somewhere else. It's really hard to change people's minds when it comes to how they view other races. And it made me realize like how real this is. Like obviously I knew before talking to that man, but like it's hard to make change. But I believe that if we keep going, it'll make a difference. It's just going to take time.
Yeah, I second that. I think the more we fight for it, the more we'll get. So there's a lot of people that I understand that are out there. It's like, why does this even matter? And for that, I like to use the rainforest theory. So there's a guy walks up to another guy and he's protesting rainforest, save the rainforest. And the guy says, "Oh no, sorry, let's scratch that." The guy walks up and says, "All lives matter. I mean, Black Lives Matter." And the guy says, "All lives matter." And the guy breaks down. He's like, "That's not the point. that is the point, like that all lives matter, but black lives are going through this injustice. And he's like, if you were protesting rainforests, to save the rainforest, you wouldn't disregard all other forests, that are being harmed. And so he was bringing more awareness to the fact that yes, all lives do matter, but that's not the point right now. The point right now is that black lives are looked at as less than lives. They're not fitting in the same category. And so yes, equality, we are all equal, but that's where we're striving to get. In theory we are, but in the system we're not. And that's what the big change needs to be. I also have a lot of people. I'm not pro riots, and I don't believe in the destruction of things that, you know, there's local mom and pop shops out there that are striving to build their business, and then to see them get burned down, like that's not cool. But I understand where the pain and the suffering is coming from a long time of telling and trying to get our voices heard, and no one's listening. I understand how that frustration can turn into anger, and people don't listen sometimes until things get chaotic. And I don't agree with the riots, but I feel like sometimes it does allow room for people to open their ears and say, okay, this is what's going on.
Well, and everybody deals with things differently. I also don't really agree with violence, but I was watching this. I've been doing everything I can to educate myself, and I found this one video that has been the most helpful to me to understand why riots are happening. And it was helpful that the man who was teaching, everybody like who's white and wants to learn, he's black and he wasn't pro riots, but he was trying to help us to understand why it's happening. I'm definitely going to butcher this analogy, but basically what he said is, it's like if he was on his bike and he's coming up to like behind this lady and keeps yelling on your left, and then she doesn't hear, he yells a little louder on your left, she still doesn't hear, he yells even louder on your left, and then soon there's a collision because she doesn't move, because she had her headphones in, she just didn't hear anything. And then take that to the real world, it's like everyone who's black is saying this is unjust, and they just keep saying it louder, this is unjust, and nobody's listening, and they say it even louder, this is unjust, and then finally there's been this collision, and that's where everybody is they're just done with everything that's happening that's unfair. And that's where the riots come into play. Like there needs to be change, and there are a lot of people that believe that these riots are going to be what makes the change. A lot of people believe that it's going to get attention, which it is going to get attention, but I also think that these peaceful protests are just as powerful. And if you haven't been to a protest, I encourage you to go if you feel comfortable. Once you're actually there, you can feel how powerful it is. I definitely teared up a couple different times when I was there, because as we're marching down the street, we're like stopping traffic, and people are getting out of their cars and just like raising their fist up and honking their horns, like so many people coming out of their houses and like just starting to march with us. And it's just it's very powerful. So I agree more with peaceful protests. I think that they're more powerful than what some people believe.
I agree that peaceful protest is more powerful than riots, 100%, because it's when you're watching the news or you're watching these media and you're seeing these people rioting, it doesn't matter what side you're on, it's just you're like, wow, okay, that's what these people are. But when you see this group of people coming together, all different race, all different sizes, all different kinds of people, and they're protesting and saying, hey, we're not trying to destroy, we're not trying to break things, we're just saying, hey, listen to us, like this is wrong, join us. There's a different vibe about that, and it brings a great power, which right now there's so many people in the nation that it's just kind of blown up, right? And it's a lot of power. So it's like the quote from Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility, and that lies on both sides, both the people and the police. And I'm loving what I'm seeing because I think so many people are trying to look internal, even though the system, is barely listening to us. The people that are joining, I feel, have been touched and are slowly starting to move and starting to ask the question, now what can I do to get that way? There's another story I have for you. When I was growing up, my entire life so far, like I've always lived in kind of like a poverty area, and so the saying when I was going to school or when I'm leaving the home, my mom was always like, "All right, make sure to be safe out there," because it's never been a protected area where I could feel safe at all times. So she'd always say, "Okay, be safe out there." But it's crazy now to see that the whole nation is telling each other to be safe. So growing up, like I never lived in like a really good area. It was always like it's always not very good area to grow up in. But I think it's kind of interesting now that not only are moms in the hood or in these bad areas telling their kids, hey, to be safe, but everyone in the nation is feeling what we felt growing up, where the word be safe comes out every single day as you're leaving the house. That's how it felt growing up as a young African American or a young black person in the Americas or in America.
Yeah. I just totally lost what I was gonna say. Um, yeah, overall, I think that people's hearts are changing, and even the people who weren't racist from the start and wanted to, um, well, not wanted to make a change, but just weren't racist, I think are realizing that they need to do more than just not be racist. They need to recognize white privilege and how even if you're not racist, like you, because of the color of your skin, you get treated differently, a lot different, and there's just more that we as white people need to do, and we really are looking at that and recognizing that so many people are doing their best to educate themselves, and I just think that's a beautiful thing because it means that we really care, that we really want to do whatever we can to help. I just, again, the past 2 weeks I've been feeling so helpless and like not knowing what to say or what to do really. Well, mainly just like what to say. I've done my best saying a couple things on Instagram because I do think that speaking up, even if you don't really know what to say, is just good. But I just think as long as you're trying, just educate yourself, look inward. Like, what is your heart telling you to do? And just what messages do you think that the world needs to hear? I mean, I feel like if you're somebody who thinks you don't know what to say right now, you probably know more than what you think. So just, try your best. Just give it a shot. Try to speak up because that's what the world needs right now.
True. Yeah, definitely. People are gonna come at you and say, hey, this and this and that, no matter what you do.
Oh yeah.
But don't listen to that. Just go ahead and post what you need to post about anything positive, and if you feel like you are wanting to support the cause but don't know how to do so, just look at other examples. There's all over on Instagram, Facebook, and trust me, you're gonna get hit with some feedback, but don't take it personal. Just push it aside and keep moving forward, because the one opinion of 2 or 3 people that comments on your page isn't the same as the rest of us.
And everybody, like, I don't know anyone that hasn't gotten negative comments from what they've said. And what they've said, like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that there's so many different opinions out there, and there's also a lot of emotion in the world right now. And usually the people who are commenting back are people that are just really angry right now, and no matter what anyone says, they're going to just be angry, and that's fine. That's where they are right now. So just keep that in mind. There's just a lot of opinions, a lot of emotion right now in the world. So just keep speaking up, keep doing you.
Yeah. I've even got negative feedback. I put a lot of positive information out, and people are just like, "Okay, rights are the best," blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, dude. Let me school you on what I think, and then in the end, we just disagree to disagree and move forward. But
Yeah.
that brings me to the topic of police brutality or police injustice. Uh, Police, for a very long time have been given so much authority overall, and they just feel now that they can do anything, and that's just so wrong because they're the people that's supposed to be protecting us as people, and that they're the people that we've given the power to and trust with it, and now they're just been taken account every time you go on that you'll see a different video of someone being taken advantage of because by a police officer, uh, and it's just like, wow, how do you turn that power that you have that's been entrusted with to just use for negative?
Yeah. Wow. I still am shocked with some of the things that I see. Um, I read this story yesterday about all like this group of people that just got literally kidnapped by the police. They were taken to a garage and they were there for like 10 hours, didn't have any food or water, were handcuffed, and from the police told them that they needed to make a statement. So they kidnapped a bunch of people and didn't let them have a phone call or anything. It's just crazy to me. And this probably shouldn't be shocking at all, but with everything that's going on, police are still using their power, still think that they can get away with stuff like this. And it's disgusting. It really is. Like, I just, I don't know. It's a topic that I'm still like speechless on. I just can't believe what they think that they can get away with. And even just as human beings, what they think that is okay to do. But yeah, I feel like you would just think that right now they would be a little bit more careful with their actions, but I feel like they just don't care.
Yeah, and one of the big things is that I think it's different. It's so funny when I tell people that I get pulled over by cops because when you tell a white person that you get been pulled over by cops, they're like, well, did you give them attitude? I would have told them this. I would have told them to go F their moms, F off, give them the finger. But when you tell a black person, hey, I've been pulled over by cops, they're like, okay, like, are you okay? Like, did you listen to the police officer? Did you make sure you do everything that you're supposed to? Because you never want a reason for them to, pull a gun out on you or to abuse you in any way. And I remember, I mean, I've been pulled over quite a bit just because, we're speeding or whatever, but my mom's always like, keep me on the phone with you or give me a call if that ever happens. Or sometimes I have to call my boss and he'll talk to the officer and anything like that, just to take extra precaution. But that is something that being white in America you'll never have to go through, because no matter what, like you have that entitlement in a sense where you were raised being safe by by police officers. And so, but for us, like, we've always been looked at as the criminal, and so in police officers' minds, like, they don't have to treat us with respect. They are on guard at all times. It's just a very scary thing. So my mom hates when I get pulled over by the police because she never knows what the action's gonna happen, and that is something that most white families will never have to deal with, and that's why we're so frustrated as a race, and that's why you're seeing so much riots and things, because it's just long past due that justice is served.
Yeah, I mean, the worst that's happened to me is just that this cop thought that I didn't belong in this rich neighborhood. He thought that I was like, I don't know. I don't know if he thought I was living on the streets, because at the time I didn't dress very well. But that's like the worst that's happened to me, and that didn't even scare me. You know, like I'll never know what that fear feels like. Because me and my annoying attitude, like I do have an attitude with most people, and whenever cops like knock on my door or whatever, like I always have an attitude with them, and it makes, now like I think about the difference of how I react to the cops and how Angel would react to the cops, and it's I don't know, it's really just got me thinking a lot lately how just having a different skin color can make all the difference, and that shouldn't be the case. I'm curious, what do you think that the outcome is going to be with all of this?
Oh yeah. So I mean I believe it will. I don't think in the end it's going to make a huge difference. Like we really would hope so. I believe that people are gonna pull it in for a second, contemplate, think about it, and try their best to change. But in the end, I really feel like it's gonna take more than one of these protests. I know there's been more in the past, and I'm really hoping that this time things make a difference and we can bring peace, and that we can get police the justice that get black people the justice that they need from police. And I'm really hoping that it works, trust me. But I feel like we live in a cycle where it's like, okay, it's fine, and then again you see more instances where the police strike back and it comes harder. And so I believe this time, because of the voices that are speaking out, I feel like we could make a difference, and I'm really hoping that we do. Part of me also, it's like, okay, if we do make a difference and things do change, then I feel like the Hispanic community is going to be the next target that the police move towards. Because now they see that the black community is pulling together so strong that it's going to be they're going to be less likely to act on them, but they're going to shift that violence to somewhere else. And I'm really hoping that's not the case, and I really hope that our protesting and our voicing can get out there and make a huge difference, and people can contemplate and cops can change. But
I feel like something has to come from this, because I don't think the energy that I feel in the world right now, I just don't think that people are going to stop until they get what they're asking for. That doesn't say that down the line, like, it'll just, change back, but I think that something will come from this. I don't know exactly what, but I think that in some way there will be good that we're able to get out of this. But I do think that we're probably going to have another chapter like this later on in life. I think, because we're just repeating history right now, and I think unfortunately that just has to be done a couple times to really make people realize what needs to change, what needs to happen.
I agree.
I do have to say, it's very unfortunate the president that we have during this time. I cannot believe, I don't even think it's a coincidence, honestly. I think I'm just somebody that thinks things happen for a reason, and when they do, it's just so interesting to have the president that we have right now in office during a time like this. Oh my gosh, our president, he's not helping things at all.
Instead of, Kennedy had something similar to this happen, and he made a national broadcast where he would talk to all the people and, try and find a solution. Our current president built a wall between him
What's up with
and
him
the
and walls?
people.
Like, is he really that afraid of people of color? Like, not just black people, but people of color.
He's like,
really
okay,
that
let's
afraid.
build a wall, keep all the Mexicans out. All right, now that that's done, oh, the people are attacking. Okay, let's build a wall around the White House and protect. I just don't see. He's not trying to unify anything.
He just wants power, and that's it. Like, he just wants power so that every time he tweets something, the whole world will see it.
Yeah, he said. What did he say? He said, "Show the people who's boss."
Oh my gosh.
And it's just disgusting.
He's a disgrace to white people.
But on that note, I really don't have much more to say about him because I'm just like,
Me neither.
wow.
I
you
just,
know.
yeah, he's an issue, that's for sure.
Oh, I do have a little bit more. So if that's the case, and you really feel like there needs to be a difference in the White House or who's leading, do we need to vote as a generation and as a people? We just need to vote and get the right people, the right person in office. I mean, the people who are running against him aren't, much better.
Anyone is better than Trump. Like, he is literally the worst.
But to wrap it all up, in my opinion, I feel like I've been reading this book, and it talks about how for white people it's different because you never want to be called racist because in everyone's mind a racist is someone that's kind of stuck in the past, from the South, kind of non-progressive and just stuck in their old ways and just hate black people or hate people of color. But really, it's not necessarily I'm talking to the white people. I'm just saying it's different than that. That's not what the point right now that we're trying to prove. Right now it's the injustice in America of where black people are looked at differently and are being shut down by systemic racism. And so if you don't believe that and you're white, look around in your neighborhoods. If you're a white person, look in your neighborhood and tell me how many black families there are in your neighborhood. Or on another note is if someone of your friends say that are white says, hey, we're moving into this neighborhood and there's 80% or 90% black people living there, what are the thoughts that come to your mind when that shows up? If you are going to school and it's a very good school, what are the chances of you seeing more black people there? The percentage of black people that are attending those good schools are slim to none. They're token blacks. And so it's not that I'm saying that you're racist in general. I'm just saying that there's a system that's built to suppress black people and so that we can never grow. I was reading this thing and it says that the average black person in America retires with $30,000 in their bank account or in their retirement funds, Social Security. Where if you look at the white community, there's a lot more than that. Like they can go retire for a long time. But so that's the kind of injustice that we're really protesting, and that's the injustice that is causing riots. Is that it's not the typical, oh, you're racist because you hate the color of our skins. It's the system that's racist that's keeping us suppressed and we can't rise above it.
Yeah, that was well said. So what are some things that we can do to help? We have a lot of different options and they are all over Instagram, all over social media. You can always check that. Every day I see new petitions that can be signed, new places that you can donate. They even, there's a lot of resources that are posted, different books and podcasts and shows on Netflix that are helpful and educational. Because that is a form of helping, is educating yourself. Because the more that you educate yourself, the more that you'll realize why change needs to happen and how you can help. So do that. There, you can go and protest. Just make sure that you're being safe out there. And am I missing anything?
No, I think you said it.
Yeah. Oh, and speak up, of course. Yeah. Just don't be afraid of negative feedback, because it'll most likely come.
Yeah. I got you guys. If I see you post something, I'm coming with all the negative feedback. All of them.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast, though.
Especially you, Justina.
Oh my goodness. We'll see if she texts us about that. And thanks for joining me, babe.
Of course, babe.
I will say that I feel better, having spoken up more today. I feel much better. And the last thing I have to say, if you're afraid to speak up, it feels better when you do, because you know that you're helping, that you're helping with this change that's trying to happen right now. So anyway, thanks everybody. Awesome. And don't forget,
love you guys, I really do.
Don't forget to tune in next week. We have a really awesome guest that's going to be joining this podcast, so yeah, we'll see you then.
Bye. That was a good session, man.
That was awesome. Dang.